Welcome all to the Transit Workforce Center's webinar of ATTAIN, the American Transit Training and Apprenticeship Innovators Network. This webinar will focus on bus operator mentorship and apprenticeship. I'm Caritza Holtzcomb, Senior Policy Analyst at the International Transportation Learning Center, the organization that staffs the Transit Workforce Center, which is the Federal Transit Administration's National Technical Assistance Center for Transit Workforce Development. I am joined in facilitating today's webinar by my colleague, Maurice Beard, Senior Workforce Development Advisor at the TWC. As people join, please make sure to enter your name, title, organization, and location in the chat box, along with any questions or topics you'd like to have addressed when we get to the discussion portion of today's webinar. All right, so some logistics. The first part of this meeting is being recorded. When we get to the Q&A and then the discussion, I'll turn the recording function off because we'd like to have an informal discussion where people can feel free to speak candidly. So today's agenda is up on the screen. We'll start with an introduction to mentorship programs, learn about the origins of these programs, go through a step-by-step guide to starting a mentorship program, then the process to register it. During the Mentorship in Practice panel, you'll hear from agencies that have implemented mentorship programs. They'll talk about some key points and highlights that we hope will help you as you explore the possibility of bus operator mentorship or improve the existing program at your transit agency. We really hope to convey to you today that mentorship and apprenticeship are workforce development tools that work for everyone involved: the agency, the union where applicable, the individual workers, and the community at large. Because as I'm sure many of you know, operating a bus can be a great career with a good wage, great benefits, but giving operators the support they need can make all the difference to whether they succeed and stay with their career. So because these programs have such great results, more and more agencies have adopted them. We've created a map that's available on our website that shows you where all of these programs are. You can see coach operator mentorships and apprenticeships highlighted, with more to come. So what is bus operator mentorship?
So I just want to point out, after successfully completing the training, the new operators are paired with mentors and pass on their skills. It's very important to emphasize the fact that mentorship happens after training. Your training program doesn't necessarily change. You train your operators as you always have, and then once that's complete, they get paired with a mentee or a mentor, and we'll go with what mentor program is.
And the mentors are selected from among the experienced drivers at your agency. They're not the drivers with the perfect records or just the drivers who've been there the longest. You want to have a set of criteria that kind of ensures that you have mentors who are there for the right reasons and who will pass along the right message to their mentees. Generally, they act as volunteers. The program usually incorporates ride-alongs where the mentor rides along with their mentee on a route. And they also will attend, periodic meetings where they're paid overtime for both of those. So some of the benefits of operator mentorship. Maurice?
Well, of course, we've got increased retention. There's an increased morale and confidence, reduced absenteeism, and improved employer reputation, and a strong emphasis on customer service. People are trained, and then whatever they have with them, they take out after training. But with a mentor program, you've got someone who's going to support you. You've got someone to talk to on those hard days. So the mentor programs can really are fantastic for support for that operator.
I also want to point out that the reduced absenteeism um, is both operators who are being mentored and those who are mentors. They're both equally encouraged to come to work more. All right, so here's some of the data that backs up what we were just talking about. VTA in San Jose saw an increase in retention of 15%, up to 95% retention after implementing a mentorship program. AC Transit saw a similar jump up to 88%. GCRTA in Cleveland, they saw retention rate 25% higher for operators that had a mentor versus those that did not. They also saw 34% fewer absences for those operators that had a mentor.
Exactly. And that's what Caritza was alluding to earlier in terms of the symbiotic relationship you get between mentors and mentees. We find that the mentors were showing up to work more because they had somebody who are now relying on them. And the mentees were coming to work more because they didn't want to let their mentors down.
And
So
they had support.
exactly. So these programs are really good for both the veteran operator and the new person coming in.
All right. I am honored to introduce Tom Fink, who's really the reason that we are even talking about these programs. He started the very first mentorship program in the country and is here to talk about the need he saw in the industry and how it all started. Tom?
Thank you, Caritza and Maurice. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning where I am. I'm out in Oregon. Yeah, I got the ball rolling 20 years ago, based on two considerations. One was my personal experience, and the second was a political evaluation of the meaning of apprenticeship. My personal experience was that I had come from trucking, and bus driving looked very easy because I didn't have to hand stack the cargo, right? Uh, uh, and the cargo walks itself on and walks itself off. Unfortunately, encountering the high stress environment of mass transit was a shock that many of us at the time likened to being thrown to the wolves. We were taught to drive a large vehicle safely, and then left to learn whatever we could on our own. Now, it took me years of misery to sort of learn how to handle the stress, how to interact with passengers, how to make the passengers a resource for getting through my day. Well, I didn't believe that. I believe that it wasn't fair. It wasn't right to leave that training vacuum. That is, train to drive a bus, but not train for the core challenges of public service. I think that it, especially because in our agency there was a high degree of conflict, um, and between labor and management, and a lot of it was driven by the frustration of that training lacuna, that the absence of real professional training. So the second was the political calculation was that mass transit is always, at least where I've lived in California and in Oregon, we're always going out to the public with a begging bowl, asking them to approve ballot measures for funding mass transit. Been through many cycles of those down in San Jose, just successfully completed one here in the Rogue Valley. We succeeded in funding transit for another 5 years for the Rogue Valley Transit District, by a very large margin, But a lot of public agencies are laboring under the public perception that they don't do a very good job, that they're not characterized by professionalism. And part of my goal was to raise the bar of professionalism so that we would essentially, we would be partnering with the public by saying to them, look, you're paying good wages, good benefits, and here's what we're going to deliver for you, right? We have an ethical responsibility to deliver high quality service. And that's very political because, you know, a lot of citizens view the public sector with a great deal of skepticism. And my feeling is that the union really needed to step up to the plate and participate in developing the quality of service that would garner public support. So those were the two basic the two basic motivations. That is that sense of job training. That is, are you fully equipped to do the work you're being paid to do? And the second was, are we giving the public a good return on its investment in us? The model that we used was from the building trades, and we knew that the building trades anchor their union solidarity in their craft and their worker-to-worker educational model that is both on-the-job training and classroom training that was delivered by co-workers was a very powerful model because it makes workers bond over the quality of their work and the pride that they take in their work. And I wanted that same ethic to be embedded in our union's participation in training and supporting people as they learned the work. So I'm not sure I could go on and on about the historical link between public agencies, that is the historical development of the public sector and the development of the union movement, but they're very closely related historically, that is driven by the same forces in our society. And so they have a common interest in a very symbiotic interest in supporting each other. Our agency had attempted through annual VTT classes for drivers to really train them, inculcate skills for passenger relations, stress reduction, things like that. But because we had a history of antagonism deeply embedded in the history of the agency, most operators did not pick that up from the very well-intentioned management-driven curricula that were offered for passenger relations. They saw it as an attempt to place the total responsibility for the quality of service on bus operators. So when the union stepped in and participated in the development of those key skills, it made it made an ethical difference to our workers. That is, they could say, "Oh, okay, this is okay. This is not just an attempt to shunt off the blame for problems onto me. It's a way to really, it's genuine. It's a learning curve that we really have to climb together." When we developed that, we found that it elevated people's the mentor program gave people a voice at work. In what I mean by that is a greater participation in the life of the agency. That is, we discovered in the development of the program that our our workers, both in maintenance and in operations, had a huge bank of knowledge and skills that nobody had ever asked us to uh, uh, had never asked us about, never asked us to publicly present that, so that this became our voice in the agency, and we developed a greater sense of ownership over the agency. And ownership means goes along with craft pride, and that is you when you own something and you're a participant in it, you want to make sure it's the best that you can do, usually. And so that's our basic ethic. I think I've gone on long enough.
Let me ask you one question, Tom. I'm gonna
Okay.
have you go on just a little bit longer. How difficult was it to get the trust from the other side as the union is looking inward with craft pride? Okay, that's fine. Now, management has also got to have some trust that the union is going to uphold its side of the bargain.
Yes. Well, we looked forward. We convinced people that there were benefits for the agency. And our original MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding that established bus operator mentor program, uh, stated that both parties wanted a higher degree of higher quality public service, and
Yes.
that quality was contributed to our capacity for drawing the support of voters. Um,
Mhm.
that is, we had been involved in so many funding struggles after the dot-com bust, and uh, conflicts between various transportation modes over who would get the remaining funds. We were the district was acutely aware of the need to use every tool at its disposal to raise the quality of public service. And and we attracted the full participation of a key manager, and he was at the time the deputy director of maintenance, and he picked it up and
Yep.
internalized that ethic. And he and I and Deb Moy, our third party neutral, and she was a key part of that. I can't that The neutral party was key to getting the parties to work together. I guess I left that out, didn't I?
No, that's okay. We're there.
It is a key part of it, because it was very difficult to communicate across the table. And So the fact that there was a strong advocate in me and a strong advocate in this deputy director of
You can mention his name.
operations, yeah, Michael
Yes,
Hirsch.
yeah,
He later
absolutely.
became general manager of AC Transit. He actually works at um,
Lane.
Lane
Yep.
up in Eugene now. And so the three of us really did a lot of legwork to get it established. And what I brought to the table was quite um, a wide set of community connections, because I had been very active in politics and in policy, in the labor movement and in the wider community. And we actually drew a lot of community support from workforce investment boards and from the manufacturers group. Uh, and the key thing was the support. We needed their support to get initial funding, for grant funding. And one of the key things that they needed to know was, were the two parties actually going to work together? And Mike and I very often showed up together in venues where we presented a united front.
That's
And
great.
okay,
No, I was just saying that's great. And for full disclosure, um, I worked at VTA for 28 years, and Tom and I go back, and a lot of what he's talking about, I lived through. So, thank you so much, Tom. And there'll be opportunities to ask questions again later on in this webinar.
Great. Thank you, Maurice.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you again, Tom. I think it's awesome to hear about, how these programs started and, why they're still around. So here are all of the steps to start a mentorship program at your own transit agency. I know it looks like a lot, but some of these steps can happen at the same time. So the first is forming the committee that will oversee and run the program. So two important notes. It should be composed of equal members of management and labor or frontline workforce. And you should make sure that people with decision-making authority are on the committee. The committee shouldn't need to go get approval for whatever decisions they're making.
Very important. So you're going to develop the criteria for your mentor selection. And one of the things that we really like to point out is this is your program, and these criteria fit your agency. Different agencies will have different criteria. Look at the years of employment, what kind of record that person has, and the number of unexplained or preventable accidents, and how well that person adheres to the company policies.
The committee also will decide the program components, how long it is, whether it incorporates ride-alongs, how many, and at what point in the mentorship program those occur. They'll decide on whether there are mentor meetings where all the mentors get together and talk about common issues and things that have worked for them, kind of assist each other. They'll also assign a mentor program coordinator and decide whether to launch it, agency-wide or start smaller with a pilot program, and evaluate from the pilot before implementing fully.
Please, please, please brand your program. What the branding does, it offers people who are in the program separation from those who aren't. Mentor identification, as you see there, you want to have a catchy name, a logo, and it helps to promote the program. We've got Mentors Moving Metro. I believe that one is from Seattle, and I know we've got some people from Seattle on the call. And then Positive Impact Program, PIP, that's Cleveland, and Cleveland's also here, George. So it's very important to brand your program.
And then you'll start the mentor selection process. Usually you'll put up flyers and encourage operators to apply. Mentors are interviewed often by members of the joint committee. You'll check their records, and then they are selected and trained. Sometimes in the pilot phase, especially, mentors will be kind of handpicked. You'll know if you are an operator who is, you know who the operators in your agency that will be good mentors, and those who might want to avoid being part of this program.
At least to start, you want to. There'll be some folks who'll be voluntold, perhaps, but we also want to point out that, in a larger sense, that squeaky clean operator may not be your best mentor. If you've got somebody who has a little bit of dirt on them in their past, that might be a really good person to help mentor people as they go forward.
And then you'll launch your program. So the mentors are notified, trained, and after completing new operator training, those operators are paired with the mentors. And the program coordinator will track the metrics that show the program's impact on retention, absenteeism, etc. Right, so I want to quickly describe what it means to register your mentorship program as an apprenticeship. you see all of these benefits for operator mentorship, and the additional benefit that you get from registering it is funding for both employers and apprentices. So what does that mean? Basically, it's registering your mentorship program with USDOL, with your state Department of Labor. The labor/workforce and management form the committee to develop the program. That's the same committee that we talked about in starting a mentorship program. A registered apprenticeship has to have 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning per year, and that's satisfied by the behind-the-wheel time that operators are already doing, running the routes. There is a minimum of 144 related technical instruction hours per year, which is satisfied by the training you already do for new operators. So the only additional component is that mentorship. So how to register it? First, you'll contact your local apprenticeship office. There are Office of Apprenticeship states and state apprenticeship agency states. The process is the same. Doesn't matter which one your state has. You can find the contact information at that link, and yes, you'll get a copy of this presentation after the webinar. Reach out to them to get the necessary forms and the standards of apprenticeship that you'll fill out for your program. If you have a union, you'll need to ensure that the wage progression and terms of apprenticeship align with the collective bargaining agreement. This can be done by an MOU, side letter, or added during contract negotiations. You also complete those standards of apprenticeship that I mentioned, and your local apprenticeship office will guide you through that process. The standards will specify the length of the program, the wage progression, the program type, and then you'll submit those standards, and it'll be registered. And by registering it, again, you'll have access to those funding opportunities. All right, so some of the keys to success of apprenticeship and mentorship programs for coach operators. The first and kind of main one are the mentors. They are the heart and soul of the program. We talked about the eligibility requirements for mentors. This is an example from King County Metro in Seattle. Another huge key to success is the program coordinator. They play a huge role in ensuring smooth implementation of a program and that it runs smoothly, after that. They make sure that there are regular communications between the mentors and the mentees. They support the partnership between the workforce and management, and they'll meet with the mentors, and they're also responsible for pairing up the mentors with the new operators. And I want to encourage you to use the resources available to you. Obviously, we are here for technical assistance. We can help you along the way. There's also a national group of mentor coordinators that hold regular meetings, and we can get you set up to attend those if you're interested. Work with your labor partners if you have a union. They'll really be the kind of ringleaders. It's definitely in their interest to have this kind of program that supports their members. And then your local workforce system, the workforce boards, that's where you'll find funding. They can help you access WeGo funds, on the job learning, and related technical instruction reimbursement to subsidize the cost of this program.
And I'll just say that the most successful programs that we've seen around the country are those that work collaboratively between labor and management. So, you're talking across the table, you're doing everything working together equally to support the program, select the people, And those, collaborative partnerships really create very good programs.
Sorry about that. All right. So now we're going to hear from a couple of agencies that have implemented these programs, starting with WeGo in Nashville, Tennessee, ATU Local 1235 President Tracy Ward, and Nicholas Pachenka. Hand the floor over to you. Nick, you want to start?
Good morning. You can go first, Tracy, if you'd like.
You put me on the spot. Good morning. How are you doing? Just want to say thank you for giving this opportunity to be here today and speak with you. ATU and WeGo, I think we started our program, we started talking about it in late November of 24. It's 25, I'm sorry. And then we actually got everything implemented this year. We've got 62 mentors present. It's working really well. I feel like the relationship between the company and also the local has been going exceptionally well. We've got a great steering committee that is very engaged on both sides of the scope. So we're doing really well as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome. And Nick?
Yep. Good morning, everybody. Nick Pachenka, Director of Operations here at WeGo. We're in an interesting situation in that we're growing rapidly and our workforce is very inexperienced. About a quarter of our employees, a little more than a quarter of them, have less than 1 year experience right now. And the rate at which we're growing, the 1, 2, 3 year experience demographic is just going to continue to grow as a percentage of our workforce. So we really needed to figure out how do we offer support to those newer employees to kind of flatten the learning curve that goes along with the job, both on how to be a bus operator, but also how to be a part of the WeGo team. So there was a really strong business need there. But what's great about this program is also this supports the people side of things really well. When we talk to the folks who have been here for a long time, we ask them, what kept you here? Why were you guys able to stay here when so many others weren't? And overwhelmingly, the answer is because I had somebody who supported me or a group of people who supported me along the way. And what this program does is it introduces that resource to operators right out of training. And they're able to hopefully build relationships that last for a long time, but at least get them through what will be for many the most challenging year of their career. So we're really proud of this program and it's paying dividends already. And really thankful for Tracy bringing this to the team and working with us as we implemented it.
Thank you both so much. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Antonio Harris. He's the program coordinator for Star Transit in Terrell, Texas. Antonio?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Antonio Harris. I'm the Transportation Director and the Program Coordinator for our mentorship program here. We've been up and running now roughly 9 months. We started this with Matt Maurice down at the TTA, Texas Transit Association in McAllen. And with my deputy and executive director, we just feel like this program just helps build that gap in between management and the drivers. So, and it's been really successful so far for us.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm excited to introduce our next panelists, Orlando Riley from the ATU New Jersey State Council and Rebecca Peralta from New Jersey Transit, where they are piloting a mentorship program with ATU Local 819. Orlando, you want to start?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Orlando Riley from the ATU New Jersey State Council, representing almost 10,000 members. And kind of to reiterate what everyone else said, this was just something that we felt that was really needed, and particularly in New Jersey with our current retention rate. And when the opportunity presented itself, we teamed up with Rebecca and her team at New Jersey Transit to start the mentorship program, and it seems to be going really well at the moment. Was People were really asking for it, especially hearing what's going on in the rest of the country. And I'll let Rebecca go and she can talk a little bit. I don't want to talk too much.
Thank you, Orlando. Yes, I'm Rebecca Peralta. I'm the Deputy General Manager of Training at New Jersey Transit for Surface Transit. So that's bus and light rail. Like Orlando said, we knew for a very long time there was a need for this program. We know that we give individuals the skills that they need to drive. And we do touch upon working with customers with disabilities and customer service and all of those things. But there's nothing like having someone in the garage who can help you when you need it. So our program just started. It's fairly new. We got it up and running in January, and then it took a little time to actually get graduates from the one garage that we are piloting, so that we could pair them with the mentors. But currently we have 10 mentors. We have about 10 mentees, and what we're hearing is that it's beneficial on both sides. The mentees really appreciate having someone who they can talk to, someone dedicated to it. And the mentors are getting some, on a personal level, gratification, being able to help new individuals and know that they're getting good information as opposed to just talking to whoever and getting whatever they might get. So far, so good on our side.
Tom, you have a question.
Yes, I just wanted to ask folks to address the question of a neutral third party, whether it was necessary in the beginning to facilitate the development of the program, to bring the parties together. If you could, just address that as you go along. That's all.
All right, so that's a good segue into our panel discussion. I'm going to ask a question of Antonio first. We'll get all of the presenters up on the screen. There we go. So Antonio, how did you learn about mentorship programs?
As I mentioned during my introduction, that we was at a TTA, Texas Transit Association, and we was walking through where a lot of vendors are, and Maurice was there, and we met Maurice, and he kind of explained to us, what it is and what it's for, and the purpose of the mentorship program. And we just reached back out to Maurice a few months later, and then we started the program. Maurice was a great help with us.
Go Maurice. All right.
Yeah, they were very fortunately, for us and for Star, they're really receptive to the message and what the program could do for them. So I'm very happy that it's up and running and they're doing well. So with New Jersey, what sold you on the idea of a mentor program?
What sold us? Well, we knew it was needed, right? We knew we
Okay.
needed some help. And we had discussions with Jermaine Gibson from the International, and he just showed us how much work he was doing across the country. And once we saw his presentation and he talked about how successful it was, we knew that was something that we really needed in New Jersey. Bus driving is a tough job. Things have changed so much over the last 20 years. The age group for those coming in is different. Everything is different, especially since COVID. And we know that people need help, right? And they need some type of mentoring and people to talk to, and that wasn't happening. So for us, it was an easy decision to kind of move along and give it a shot.
Fantastic. WeGo, what sold you guys? What was that thing that said, okay, let's do it?
Well, for me, I think I had conversations with Jermaine because we have also the one apprenticeship committee here in Nashville. But I think one of the things for me, I had a young lady that was in her 90 days, and she and I had a conversation, and she was saying how, I guess, coming out, getting started, it was so hard for her, and that she felt lost. And I just didn't want anybody to feel that way. I typically understood the feeling because when you're a new operator, you're in the seat, it's a different feeling. And I just didn't want anybody else to, have that feeling or feel that way coming on board.
That's interesting. I appreciate that she felt lost, and that was the thing that you wanted to make sure no one else felt going forward. That's amazing. Tom, we've discussed a lot about what it's taken to get this thing, what it took to get this thing going at VTA. Was there anything that you haven't mentioned or that you want to mention about it actually starting from from concept to discussion to Mike, but okay, now we're going to start. What did it take to really kind of kick it off?
Well, let me reiterate a little bit of the history of our program. We started with the question focusing on bus operators, but it quickly became apparent that there was as urgent a need on the maintenance side for training and support. So because there was grant availability for maintenance training, we established maintenance training first. However, sort of concomitant with that, we also applied for a community college workforce development grant called the JDIF. Anyway, it was it was quite a significant financial boost, which was key to us getting started because neither party, the union didn't have the funds to start a program, and management had actually dedicated significant funds to the maintenance training program, but those outside funds proved to be crucial and continue to be crucial to this day, and establishing a good record of meeting all the deliverables on grants, having people within your organization, either one or a neutral third party, who's adept at writing grants. So the resourcing the apprentice, the mentoring and the apprentice program turned out to be one of the keys to our success. As we were able to demonstrate as we went along that we were onto something good and that we were worthy of funding, and that if you funded us, we would spend your money wisely. So I don't know, Maurice, does that sort of
it
get
does.
to the ballpark of the?
It does, and it offers another layer. So I thank you for that.
But it was, let me just add, it was
Mhm.
somewhat difficult in the beginning. We drew together, we selected a bunch of people initially that we thought would be good mentors. And we pitched the idea to them, and people were receptive. But in our case, in given the history of our agency, people kind of had, kind of crossed their arms and said, well, yeah, show us. It sounds good, but is this just another program that's going to, disappear? People will talk big about it, but then it'll disappear. And it was our ability to demonstrate a commitment to it, both in terms of our personal commitment, on both sides of the table and in terms of our ability to acquire resources. That continued to demonstrate, and the fact that we listened to the feedback, uh,
Mm.
to listen to the feedback that our initial mentors offered to us. That is, that always became a key, which was not just telling people or coaching them, it was listening to them and building the program on the basis of their input. When people get that feedback, that positive feedback, their capacity to buy into the thing increases pretty dramatically. In other words, again, the question of ownership.
That's perfect. That we talk about worker voice a lot, and um, that's exactly it. That sense of we're doing this, but we can also have a stake in how it plays out. So let me go around the room, if you will. And what is it that when in starting the programs, what were you hoping to accomplish? We'll start with you, Antonio.
We were hoping to accomplish by starting this program more of building a gap between management and the operators, and also to help out with the retention. We can get the drivers, talking with their peers, and someone that stays at least a year, then they're probably here for a while. Then if they make it past that first year.
Fantastic. And let's see, with you, Tracy.
Same thing, basically retention, because we seem to, like with the newer drivers, they come in, the expectation is a little bit different, I guess, than what they realized it was. And so I think for us, it was to try to make sure that we retain, because we were losing people coming in the door within less than a year's time.
Yeah, I think just to build off of what Tracy said, I think she's spot on. The business case for this is really great. Retention, attendance, safety, all of those are improved through this program. But I think for us, the reason it's been such a success in the beginning is because of what she also referenced earlier, in that there was a big need and a request from the operator team for this. So we really wanted to be able to say, we hear you, we understand what you're saying, and here's a resource that we partnered up together to be able to provide for you guys. So it also builds that engagement with everybody as well.
That's fantastic. Rebecca?
I think everybody pretty much summed it up. We heard about the need, we knew about the need, and then when Orlando and the International came to us with this program that was pretty much turnkey, addressed everything that we could think of, it just seemed like a good opportunity, and also to give people who have experience and want to help new people a formal way to do so.
I assume you'd agree with that, Orlando, or do you have anything to add?
No, I would agree wholeheartedly. It's been said multiple times. I agree with Rebecca, absolutely.
Fantastic. So one of the unique things about Star Transit there is that it's a non-represented workforce. Um, so Antonio, can you tell us a little bit about what you encountered when taking the first steps to get the program started?
Well, what we did, we kind of reached out to the drivers, and we had a discussion on our way back home from the TTA.
Mm-hmm.
And everything we encountered, amongst bringing it to management first and then taking it to the driver was all positive. We got positive feedback, and it's something that everyone was willing to work for and get up and running.
That's great. And for New Jersey and WeGo, did the labor management partnership come into play pretty early?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was step one when Tracy brought the idea to us. Um, we started, at the top and worked our way down, and everything has been in lockstep. So we've got equal representation on the steering committee. We've got regular meetings with the various department heads around our organization to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to contribute and provide the resources needed. Um, and obviously the operators and the ATU, they're the heart and soul of it. So I think with the company providing the resources we can, and the union providing all those extra pieces that they're able to provide, it turns into a great program.
New Jersey? How did you guys, your labor management relationship, how's that worked out?
You can go, Rebecca, if you like.
I think it's worked out well. I think we have a good relationship. Every step of the way, we made sure that we worked together. So we looked at the content together, shared some feedback. Yes, I agree. No, maybe we'll tweak this. When it came to just branding the program, the little logos, we shared that. I think we have a good relationship. I think when we had the graduation, maybe we forgot to put the ATU logo on the certificate. So Orlando was like, hey, we need the ATU logo. Sure, no problem. So we just kind of worked together to make sure that it was evident to everyone involved that this is a joint program for buy-in, and just to make sure, two heads are always better than one. So to make sure that we're covering all of our bases and that kind of thing.
I mentioned earlier that the most successful programs are ones that work collaboratively. It's pleasing to hear, how well you all are seeing that collaborative effort equals a successful program. So that's great. Now at WeGo, you guys have had a long-standing bus maintenance apprenticeship. Did that speak to anything at all in terms of starting the operator program?
Yes, it did. Like I said, I had been talking back and forth with Jermaine quite a bit, and wanted to try to do something to help bus operations. And he had basically talked with me about this program. Um, I was gun ho from jump, and wanted to bring it back to the company to be able to say, hey, this might be something that we might help both the company and the local. As far as retention and growing my membership. And then keeping a lot of people out of the seat, having problems, so that to me was something that was very beneficial.
That's amazing. Nick, anything to add?
No, I think she answered it spot on.
All right, that's fantastic. So, all right, everyone is on the same page. This is great. We're going to start this program. I'm wondering, and for for our audience here, how long did it take to implement the program from idea to okay, let's get going with it. We'll start with you guys, Antonio.
After we met, once you came in August, I guess we talked with you in June, and then you came in August, and we started, and we was able to get this program started immediately. It took us maybe a day, and then you would kind of work, a few months to get it up and running. So we've been up and running successfully 9 months now.
And just for context, everybody, Terrell it's a smaller, you cover a large area with a smaller agency. So they have mentors that cover regions as opposed to having somebody, the one-to-one mentor-mentee program that most agencies have. New Jersey, how long did it take for you guys to get going?
You want to go, Orlando, or you want me?
You can go ahead, Rebecca. That's fine.
Okay. I'm not quite sure, but I think we'd estimate maybe 9 months or so from the time that we first heard about it. We got some information, and then we needed to share with management. The union wanted to share among themselves. So maybe it took us about 9 months, and then we had the mentor training happen early this year and immediately started pairing new hires with the mentors at that point.
That's not bad. And WeGo?
Yep. For us, it took about 11 months from introduction to implementation. Um, and that was certainly longer than a lot of people wanted it to be, but we wanted to make sure we had all the pieces in place before we kicked it off. Had all the resources available and mentors trained to be able to handle some of the situations that might come up, and really put them in a position to be successful. So that additional time up front we thought was a well worth of investment.
And I have often said to agencies that this is a marathon, not a sprint. I would much prefer, people take their time, get it right, make the adjustments that are necessary to have a successful program as opposed to just rushing and then have it not work as well. So, I appreciate the fact that you guys took a little bit longer, but look how successful your program is. So as we talked about people being voluntold to do this or, raising their hands to get this thing started. How did you guys decide on the mentor selection, the process and the requirements? I'll go back to you guys in New Jersey.
Well, I'll say one thing I remember early on when I was sharing information with our management team. I mistakenly perhaps was thinking that we needed to vet them in the same way that we vet operator trainers or people when they're going to go through the rodeo. So I was like, okay, we want, less than 4 accident grading points, which is how we grade accidents, and few customer complaints and this and that. And our senior vice president at the time said, hey, I think someone said this earlier, let's not discount people just because they've taken a few bruises, because those could turn out to be some of the best. So, we looked at just individuals who could basically be agreed upon between labor and management. They did, for the most part, turn out to be the same people who we do use as operator trainers. Just on our property, that's the way that it ended up going, because they are the most willing to help too. But we wanted to look more at personal traits. Are they interested in helping? Do they get gratification from helping? Experience for sure plays a role too.
What about you guys at WeGo?
Well, I did voluntold 3 individuals as far as the steering committee was concerned. One of them was my recruiter, who she goes into all of the new hire classes, which I felt like that was very beneficial because she would be one of the ones that have the first contact with folks. Also my reporting secretary, who is also a trainer, as far as when we have new people to come in, and then I have a shop representative as well. He was one of the guys that I, kind of leaned to because he's good with, communicating with the new folks. So those people, yeah, they got voluntold what to do. And I was able to give the reins over to them, but we also on the management side looked at some of those folks that actually had sat in the seat for a while as well, because I wanted to make sure that they had an understanding as to what, the operators deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, very important. Antonio, how did you volunteer your people?
We actually kind of opened it up first to drivers, to apply for it, and then those that we did volunteer, we, to represent the service areas that they're working in, and they was already doing this at first because the driver was comfortable coming in speaking with them. So after we volunteered them, that's what we did.
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone at their agency knows who is that helpful person. knows who that person is, that pulls people aside and tries to tell them the right things or tries to help, you know. And it's really important as these programs are, fashioned, that now you have sort of control over the message, with the people who are given the right message and maybe the people who are, given the wrong message. So it's good to get all that kind of, going in one direction. Um, excuse me. Tom, let me ask you, you got operators with no incidents, operators with some challenges in the beginning, and can have more valuable lessons to share. Um, that's an awkward question. I'm sorry. Can you tell me
Okay.
basically, as you were putting this together, what was kind of your idea of the ideal mentor?
Well, it evolved. In the beginning, number one, as someone here already said, we selected people not on the basis of a wage bump or anything like that, but on the basis of their, their kind of suitability of their personality for teaching and their values. That is, and it was a joint project between the union and management. We sat down and discussed various people based on their reputation in the agency. And we, after a while, the way it evolved was that the union was the prime mover on mentor selection, because frankly, we knew our people better at a more basic level than management often did. Not that management didn't know anything, but they tended to view it through a narrow frame of strict performance to policy, and that's okay. But I think, as Tracy pointed out, you don't necessarily, or maybe it was Rebecca, you don't people who have had problems in the past are more well equipped to teach people because they know what the pitfalls are, and frankly have a greater degree of empathy for somebody who's just learning. Does that answer your question, Maurice?
No, that's perfect, man. I agree with that entirely. The excuse me, the mentor programs in general, they thrive. Again, this is, worker kind of driven with management support, and you really do need to understand kind of all sides of things to help folks. And if you got a blemish or two, I can tell you my own story very quickly. I took off all the time to watch sports. I had a veteran operator tell me, "Are you out of your mind? You've got no sick time." And so he gave me a lecture about sick time, clued in, made sense, got myself straight, and built up my sick time. He said that you need to have enough sick time to break a bone, and that little piece of mentorship changed the trajectory of my work life. It really did. So, you don't always, someone with the cleanest record, as we've said, is not always the best person to that person can really do some good for you. So let me ask you, Tom, also, why is this having volunteer mentors give you a better chance of having the right folks?
Well, because if mentor selection is based on something like a wage bump, then seniority tends to come into the equation, and that isn't necessarily the best. Seniority doesn't necessarily indicate job mastery. I mean, one hopes that it does, but it doesn't necessarily in terms of uh, on the ground experience. We one of the things that characterized our program was that it was mentor driven. That is, it was the wisdom and experience of the mentors themselves who designed the curriculum that really went into the designing of the curriculum. And part of that was storytelling. So let me give you an example. One of our best and most enthusiastic mentors was a guy who told the story about when he was new and driving the 22 line, which is in our system was the busiest line in the system. He told the story of driving up to a bus stop, and his reputation preceded him. He opens the door, and there's a couple of people standing out on the sidewalk, and they look at who's at the wheel, and they step back and say, "Oh, we'll wait for the next bus." In other words, he came from a place of absolutely resisting the work and being antagonistic about every aspect of it. He hated it. So he fully understood what it was like to respond to the work in that spirit of resistance and antagonism. And he overcame it, much to his credit, just like I did, overcame it on the strength of our own characters and our own stoicism, I guess, in the end. But it's that knowledge that deeply informed his mentoring of people. He knew what it was like to look down the street and see people standing in the bus stop and think, "Oh, why don't you go away? Just leave me alone." So
Yeah.
I personally went through that. When I looked down the street and saw empty bus stops, it was discouraging to me. Previously, it had been woohoo, I don't have to
Yeah.
pick anybody up. And then it was like, well, where's my people? How am I going to feel useful if there's nobody to pick up? Who am I going to talk to if there's nobody to pick up? So I think that maybe demonstrates the one of the key criteria for mentor selection is that somebody really has fully experienced the most difficult challenges of the job and knows what it's like to be a new person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. Antonio, can you talk about the importance of the workforce buy-in for this program?
I feel like the importance of it is because a mentorship program, it cannot be mandated from the top down. It only works when we work with each other and we show up for one another.
Fantastic. We've mentioned this a little bit before, but let me ask you guys at New Jersey, the role of the union in this partnership. Can you expound upon that a little bit?
Um, hmm. The role of us, I would, I would say the role of the union is probably really to give more of a maybe like a different insight into the workers and employees, as was stated earlier. Sometimes I believe coming maybe from management, you kind of maybe focus on certain criteria, and the union, particularly if you're honest with the workforce, you definitely know who not to include right first because we want it to be successful, and then who will help make it successful. So I think that's really probably the most important part, like us putting that different perspective on the workers, because we tend to spend more time with each other, right? Whether it's off the bus, on the bus, in the garages. I think that's probably the union's role, more the union's role.
Tracy?
I feel like bridging the gap. I feel like between the company and also with ATU. I think that's something that, coming in as a new person, you need to kind of understand that, that the company is not always the bad guy. That's what they're hearing in the beginning. But if they can see that, hey, you know what, the local was there for me, and then I had people on the admin side that also work together, kind of to try to bridge the gap and make us more collaborative together.
Rebecca and Nick, will you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to also just acknowledge the larger ATU organization support in the program as well, and the training and the modeling of what the program should be. Tom earlier asked about third-party assistance, and I think the closest thing we had to that was the larger ATU organization supporting us and coming in and helping us get some lessons learned from other organizations. So, yeah, key locally, but also appreciated the support from the broader organization.
Tom, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if any people on the union side have a dedicated training fund. We established a training fund through a 2 cent per hour wage deduction. And that was, as you might imagine, controversial at first, but it gave us a greater credibility across the table because we had not only ethical and political authority, but we could provide actual resources. So I don't know if anybody, Orlando or Tracy, if you guys have training funds.
No, we don't have a training fund, no.
I got to tell you though, that it may seem like a small amount of money, but you spread it across the local, and it really allowed 265 to do some things. So something to think about. And it was controversial when it was voted upon and people griped over it. It's just a couple of cents, but again, collectively, it made a difference. Just throw that out there. Rebecca, time had gone before you. I was wondering if you had anything else to add in terms of the partnership.
I don't think so. I think, as Orlando said, the union just adds another layer of putting some thought behind who you pick, why you pick them, and also increasing the buy-in, letting the members know this is a worthwhile program. This isn't something that somebody in marketing at headquarters came up with.
Right.
It's important. All right.